size of what we are going to launch this morning. And also, I want to thank the Secretariat. Madam Carmen, she's here? Yes. Carmen is our technical coordinator of the project, and you've done a good job. Thank you very much. With this, I wish you the best deliberations, and also our panelists this morning. I hope these people present here in front of us, they have got good knowledge on East Africa as a destination. We have Josephine from Wakanao. You are most welcome. Then we have Madame Bonita, and from Rwanda Tourism Tour Operators Association, she's the chair. And Mr. Rex from Marriott Hotel Kigali. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jambo. Bonjour. Ça va très bien. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today. And then I'm glad to see you in this room, people from all over the world. It's a privilege also to welcome all of you in this amazing destination called East Africa, which we are proud to be our home. And the theme for the discussion today is tourism is everybody's business. The importance of tourism to our region economies cannot be overstated. It's a major foreign exchange earner, employer, and stimulator of the general economy. Unfortunately, the full economic benefits of travel and tourism are usually underestimated. That's a fact. The economy of the travel and tourism reminds me of an iceberg. Above the surface, you can see activities such as people arriving at an airport, cruising, arriving at all terminals. However, below the surface, an unbelievable amount of additional activities is taking place. That's where all of you play a role. I will not forget to mention the multiple effects of our industry. The multiple effect is what happens when the travel and tourism industry employs people, pays taxes, hire a local person to provide tomatoes, eggs, hire someone who works in the industry, and that person supports a whole community. That's the effect of our industry. In spite of economies or an enormous potential, our industry still faces some challenges. And then those challenges pretty much are in the hands of the private sector and the public sector. Our organization, East Africa Tourism Platform, our job, our mandate is to make sure that we bring the private sector and the public sector in one room to talk about issues affecting our industry. Most of those issues are probably embedded in policies, legislations, but also some of the issues are also related to the way you do business, the lack of knowledge of our destinations, the lack of understanding of the pricing, the customer who you are targeting. So as East Africa Tourism Platform, our role is to make sure that first of all, we address those issues. Have our partners from the private sector, especially those who are probably on the panel here, from aviation, hotels, private entrepreneurs who are investing in the region. We want to make sure that we hear from them what they are saying. So there are a couple of issues which will be discussed here today, and I'm honored to have someone who has an impressive CV, who has done an amazing job in the island of Seychelles, who's our guest of honor. Alain Saint-Ange is the World Tourism Organization Secretary General candidate, former Minister of Seychelles. I can promise you, when we were doing research on his bio, almost like 2 pages. So I will save you time and then probably say we are privileged to have him. So for him to talk to you, all of you here in the room, and I'm talking from East Africa, from his standpoint, what is the role of tourism from his perspective, and also have voices and standpoint from our partners from West Africa, from Marriott to the first investments in sub-Saharan Africa, and also from an entrepreneur lady who's doing business in Rwanda. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Alan Saint-Ange.
Well, as I also come from part of East Africa, I'll have to also start by saying Jambo. It's a song that is as known in our islands as it is known in Kenya itself. But we feel very attached to the East Africa bloc, obviously because when we block in East Africa, it impacts the islands immediately. When it doesn't work, we don't work. So we have, with these starting words, I want to welcome everybody here. It is for me a real honor and a real pleasure to be with you. Minister from Zimbabwe, PS, President of the grouping, Madam Coordinator, but all of you buyers coming from far and wide who have joined yourselves with East Africa to get to know more about East Africa. And today the topic that we are all looking at, tourism is everybody's business. But for it to become everybody's business, we must know what it is. So the question often that I ask back home, what is really tourism? What is that word that we all brag about, we all talk about? What does it mean? For many years it was a hotel. Then they said, no, the airlines are part of it. And then the DMCs and the agents are part of it. I ask that because when we do the income directly from tourism, what do we calculate it on? What do we take as income, direct income from tourism? And this is where you will find that it is quite misleading for us to appreciate ourselves, including us in Seychelles. What is tourism? Not enough is being recorded as income coming from this area because we are confused ourselves what the term tourism really means. Often when I deliver addresses, I say, is your tourism working when you only have a hotel like we are here today in the Sheraton? Lovely property in the center of Uganda. But is that tourism? If when you are entering this road from the airport into here, I drove it a bit in darkness at 3:30, 4 a.m., you realize that the entrance into Kampala itself is that tourism today. Should we bring, as we bring buyers, should we bring the population to be involved into their own city, into their own country, into their own suburbs? And one country that marks me is Rwanda, because I went to Rwanda for another tourism conference, and I went back home and said I've not seen an African country so clean. And then I was told, well, the president also cleans the country. They have these clean-up days, and everybody gets involved, and it is compulsory virtually to clean it. But is that something that makes tourism work? I'm just throwing the question because it is for us. Today, apart from those coming from far and wide as buyers, it is us Africans in our diversity that need to look at ourselves and say, where do we move to? It is good that so many buyers are here, that you've discovered Uganda, you've discovered East Africa, you now have a feel and you've smelled it. But where do we go as people from that part of the world for us to be able to, now that we've captured these people, to ensure that they keep on promoting us in the future? So when they next visit us, they will say, God, there's been a marked improvement in what we'd seen the last time. The wildlife of Africa, nobody can. The big five and the lakes, the waterfalls and so on. We know we have items that continues to rally visitors to our shores. But is that enough? Which is why the topic before us, tourism is everybody's business. It is so important today that we discuss it. And I congratulate East Africa and the President here for putting that topic on the table, because if it is everybody's business, has the people of East Africa, now that we are here, been invited to claim back their own industry? Have they been invited to really be part and parcel of it? Just working in the industry is not enough. We need to find them as small businesses, as small entrepreneurs, as people who are going to help the PS, helping the Secretary of State, helping the Minister, helping the President and the government of the country to really say, this is our industry. Because it is ours, I'll help you to consolidate it, I'll help you to defend it, and I'll help you to make it grow. I think this is the crossroad that we are today looking. Claim back your industry is a claim that I did about 6-7 years ago in Seychelles. Instead of just the big hotels, like we have Marriott, they're not in Seychelles, but the brands that are there. And then I went back and said, is it enough to have just the big brands? Is it enough to have just the big hotels? Or should we have family-owned places? You have them anyway, but most of them are not licensed. And I got the president to make a declaration that we need to invite people to claim back their industry and come out and license your property. So we can then visit them, guide them to be settled. When they are unlicensed and taking people, the day you have a murder, the day you have a fire, it is the country that suffers loss of image. Whereas if you license them properly, you visit them, you guide them, you bring them on board, you find that they work with you and for the tourism industry. And people that are today online, and I've got nothing against the online of businesses, but when you have Airbnb, who can sell a sofa in the room of somebody, you find very fast that one day somebody will get caught, will be burned somewhere in a place that is not to the level and not doing credit to the country. Which is why we need to ensure, by inviting the people, not for forcing them to pay a license, but for them to be able to help to grow a business with the country, you will find that we will be on a much better footing. Tourism does one thing for every country. I know when Carmen was speaking, she put about taxes and employment, but it is the only industry that puts money directly in the pockets of the people. Everybody can get money through tourism. Everybody can feel that they are part of tourism and benefit from it. But as governments, we need to open the door for our people to be better involved in this. But I think the role today, because tourism is everybody's business, is how do we grow this tourism cake? Now in East Africa. But as we grow East Africa, we will grow Africa. Because we are not in competition against each other. We complement each other. And because we want to bring more people into Africa, which today gets less, and you'll be amazed, less than 5% of the total tourism movement of the world, which is nothing for a continent that has everything. So we need us, as Africa, to realize what we need to do to grow this famous cake so that we can all eat a bigger share of it. We'll all have our limits with it. Seychelles, it works, tourism. I've had it for 9 years soon, and it works perfectly well. It is the pillar of the economy. It grew by 20%, 24%. Last year, it finished, it's getting harder to keep going at these large numbers. It finished at 10%, and in January this year, it's at 34% up over last year. So it is on a good footing. It is the pillar of the economy, and it manages for us. And I said that this morning at breakfast, for a small country with 90,000 people, sitting in the middle of an ocean, challenges are much more because it's air traffic, you sit in the middle, you are far from everything. It is the pillar of the economy and ensures that every Seychellois, when he reaches the age of 62, gets a pension from the state. And that shows you how important tourism is, and also that we are able to provide houses for most of our people as social homes. It is tourism because tourism works. And as the former Minister of Tourism until 2-3 weeks ago, I can say that the job has been well done. We are happy because we've been able to ensure that tourism works, but tourism pays for the country to keep on growing, and the people benefit at the end. But the East African community, we need to congratulate you, as we need to congratulate Zimbabwe and Zambia, this visa issue. It is very clear that obstacles in tourism don't work. The more we make it difficult, the more it is a hassle for people to come and see us. When you have these uni-visas, like the East Africa Bloc has done, 3 countries of the group, and we need to say thank you, because this helps Africa to consolidate itself. Because we are lucky, because we've always said, we are friends of all and enemies of none. Because we are friends with everybody, we have no visa whatsoever. Everybody can come to Seychelles. We have to make sure that you go once you've done your holiday. But you can all come, and you are all welcome, and we've done that ever since we gained our independence in '76 from Great Britain. But this policy of no visa brings us a benefit that even us did not appreciate till we had more airlines coming in. Short-term or last-minute tourist bookings. When you have to have visas, the complication of finding the embassy or wherever you're going to go already puts you in a losing streak there. Seychelles, with so many coming in daily, people decide now we've got a long weekend, it is a Eid holiday or whatever holiday. They jump on a plane and they're off to Seychelles, and they know they've got no visa for anybody. They can all land and enjoy the holiday immediately. So this works, but it works because also we have, and that was mentioned just now, this public-private sector partnership. It is key. Governments, we are facilitators, and we should be good facilitators. But the one who makes it work is the private sector. If it is the private sector, in Seychelles I developed, under my ministry, that the tourism board of the country is paid for by the government itself, but administered, the board is administered by the private sector. The chairperson is private sector. 4 people on the board out of 7 is also private sector. We've given them the liberty because they suffer first when it doesn't work. They're the ones that will go to the buyers and say, this is what we need to do, there's this holiday, there's this package, there's the bird season or the dolphin season or the whale season. They will look for things to do. It is much harder for a civil servant to do that. The private sector can make it happen if you empower them to do it for the country. They're not doing it for themselves, but they benefit, but it is the country that has to empower them. But my time, Carmen told me, is very short, but I could not stop. I'll be on the panel anyway. I could not stop it before I said 2 words about the coming elections of the United Nations World Tourism Organization. I asked a lot of people, I've just done a tour of Europe, canvassing obviously to get votes of voting members. And the funny thing is, 3/4 of the people don't know there's an election. They don't know because it looks like a little club. So many people, so many ministers vote, and people that are directly involved in tourism are unaware that the person that will sit in Madrid will decide how tourism moves forward. And it is absurd. And I said that to the outgoing Secretary General. I think it is important that we democratize this institution to ensure that the private sector understand what happens, which is why in my candidature I've made sure I get endorsements from the private sector, and they send it to their ministers to ensure that their ministers realize they have a say. They are the ones involved in the industry themselves. It is not us sitting in the African Union or SADC or in little councils and say, no, we want this person. It must be guided by the trade. The trade is the one, as a bloc, that suffers when tourism doesn't work. And today the challenges of the UNWTO is greater than it's ever been. When you had the bomb in Paris a year ago, Paris is receiving, as a destination, receives tourists, the tour operators benefit, but Paris is also a source market for tourism for the whole world. So also the countries suffer. 2 areas that are hit in the one go. But what do we do about it? All of us here, nothing. WTO, we need, and we've done a meeting already, as me representing Seychelles, we've done a meeting to look at bringing together Ministers of Internal Affairs, ICAO, because planes are important for us to look at, so that security and safety labels are on the table. This morning in talking, I spoke about the tanker, the fuel tanker explosion in between Mombasa and Nairobi. When that took place, Kenya jumped to say, nothing to do with terrorism. But did the world believe them? No. And they don't believe it because it is Kenya protecting itself. And it is important that the UN is closer to its member states. Which is why in my statement of intent, duly delivered on the date in Madrid, I've said very plainly that if it is me that becomes Secretary General on the 11th of May, I will ensure that member states, by regions, have a field office with a UN representative. So East Africa must have a UN office looking at tourism, working side by side with the ministers of these countries. That will decentralize Madrid. It'll be closer to you. It'll help you to get the message to Madrid that this is wrong or this is happening. When you're giving names of gorillas, you can make it become an event that is spoken about easier through a UN mandate than you trying to get the message out. But it is also going to help Madrid get closer to you. To tell you this is what we're doing. We're meeting today, ICAO. We are looking at more air access. How do we go about? So we get the direct feedback up and down. But this will help make tourism for all. Because you will be directly involved in the body that represents you at the UN level. I think the Secretary General needs to become a good facilitator. A facilitator for tourism to ensure that tourism really becomes the industry that puts money in the pockets of all the people of the world, because it is an industry that the world benefits from and an industry that can help safeguard safety labels, that can help safeguard the growth of tourism and empower the private businesses to make money out of it. Have a good deliberation, and it was nice being here with you.
Thank you. I acknowledge the presence of our host, the Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquity of Uganda, the CEO of the Kenya Tourism Board, Dr. Betty Radier, and also the Ambassador of Rwanda in Uganda. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are arriving at the exciting moment where we are pretty much turning the attention to our panelists who are here. I will ask them, of course, to introduce themselves and the organization they are representing shortly before they answer my questions, and then we'll proceed. But the question will be very simple. In your own terms, in your own language, what is actually the same question I asked to St. Ange when he arrived this morning? When we say tourism is everybody's business, in your context, what that means? So I'll ask probably Fifi sitting and then answer that question. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. As Carmen said, if we have to start by introducing ourselves, I like saying I'm now African, because really saying who I am is a bit difficult. I'm born in Uganda, raised in Congo, DRC, worked in Uganda, Congo, Brazzaville, Nigeria, Kenya now, passed through Gabon, Libreville, and I'm still continuing. I represent an online travel agency called wakanow.com. For those who do not know it, it's going to be, I hope, very, very soon, and starting from immediate, we're simply, and I'm going to use the competitor's name because fortunately you have to have somebody you look at and you follow, and that gives you guidelines, and then you start thinking of what you want to be. If I say Expedia, I think most people will understand. We are the African Expedia of Africa. And we want to be more than Expedia. We want to be the global online travel agency of Africa, promoting Africa for the African continent, for Africans, promoting tourism for Africans outside Africa to understand tourism, and contributing to the economy, and supporting heavily the African carriers. We are the leading travel agency in Nigeria. We've grown today to many destinations now in Africa. We are present in Ghana. We are now present in East Africa. We are fully registered for the last 3 years in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. We've started operations. We're starting operations effective maybe tonight, because one of our websites might be on in East Africa tonight by God's grace, and that will be Kenya. So to go to
The
Carmen's
question, yes. Tourism is everybody's business, in your own term.
is one of the reasons I am here. I think for us, for me, I've been in the aviation industry, I've been in the travel industry. I promoted Uganda with Boniface over 20 years ago now, I think. And today I'm here as a Nigerian company promoting East Africa. I believe it is our mandate to understand that we have an amazing continent, and each one of us, for ourselves and for our children and the future of our country, to understand that I need my country, my place, my parks, my business to be known to the next person sitting next to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll turn now the attention to Marriott. I understand you have amazing plans for Africa, for East Africa especially, that your first hotel in Sub-Saharan Africa came to Rwanda. So what are your plans when it comes to doing business in East Africa?
So good morning, everybody. Thank you, Carmen. I may give a quick introduction of myself. I have lived, studied, and worked in 6 countries now, and I'm just about to start my journey on the 4th continent, Africa. So I've recently joined the Kigali Marriott Hotel as general manager, and I've been working with Marriott for over 18 years in diverse countries and locations and positions. What is Marriott doing? Well, I think it's an extremely exciting time to be with Marriott at the moment. When I started with Marriott some 26 years ago, I think we had just opened the 500 hotel at those days behind the Iron Curtain in Warsaw, Poland. I have had the opportunity working in Amsterdam, and I think it was the 72nd hotel which last year celebrated the 40th year. Maybe another moment we all remember is the Beijing Olympic Games in 2008, not so long ago. Marriott opened the 3000th hotel. So what are the plans for Marriott, and in particular for Africa? We have just completed a few mergers and acquisitions, one being about 4 years ago, the Protea Hotels, very well known in Africa especially. So our growth in Africa is one of the priorities. We are part of the Middle East and Africa region, and we see a tremendous opportunity in Africa. Last year we completed the acquisition and merger of Starwood into the Marriott organization, which is, there's a lot happening. So I'm very much excited being here with Jean-Philippe, the general manager of the Kampala Sheraton Hotel, and his team. So today I can say I'm at home here at the Sheraton Hotel. Another great example of how Marriott is expanding in Africa. I had the pleasure of discovering yet another new country for me last week, and had the great pleasure of meeting Carmen there again as well, to see how active the East African tourism platform is. I was in Nairobi last week, and we were obviously trying to sell Marriott and all its hotels, especially Kigali, of course. But we did get a lot of questions about what are our plans in Kenya. So we're adding a number of hotels over there. And if the question is, do you add one hotel? No, we add several. And I think that is the story we are following now, and that's the opportunity Marriott is grabbing with the sheer increase of size. We currently have over 6,000 hotels worldwide, and by the end of the year it might be 6,500 and more.
Thank you. Now I'll probably go to an entrepreneur who's doing business in tourism, who's investing her money and then also her capital in terms of time, and she's doing business in Rwanda. So Bonita, what is doing business in tourism means for someone operating in Rwanda?
Thank you very much, Carmen. Good morning, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'd like to commend you firstly for this incredible organization. I am the chairperson of the Rwanda Tours and Travel Association, and I am also a business owner. So I own safari company, so I'm both in leisure and the MICE industry. So in the leisure industry, I own a company called Ubalak Safaris, and in the MICE industry, I own a company called Ikaze PCO, which is Professional Conference Organizers. Rwanda, I say, is a remarkable country, and it has been incredibly easy to do business there, I must say, and in the region. Of course, you understand with registering a company, it will take 24 hours at the most to actually register a company. And we are lucky that we work quite closely with the government. So we work quite closely with the Rwanda Development Board as the association. So Rwanda as a country is actually private sector led. The government understands that the private sector needs to lead in the industry. And we have a very good working relationship with them. They've been incredibly supportive in regards to, we go out to market the destination. So we as a private sector are always with the government when we're marketing the destination. And now as part of, there's also, of course, the Northern Corridor initiatives. We have the single tourist visa, and that has been incredibly helpful as well in selling the destination. East Africa Tourism Platform has been fantastic as well. It's opening doors for us. And Rwanda is a small country. We've got not as many attractions as the rest of the region, which is why the East Africa Tourism Platform is incredibly important to us, because we're selling a variety of attractions in the entire destination, in East Africa as a whole. And I definitely feel the government sort of pushing us and working quite closely with us has been incredibly helpful.
Thank you. I think I can have so many questions for the panel, but I don't want to hijack this opportunity I'm given. Why don't we turn the microphone to the audience? So you heard what our guest owner, Alan Saad from Seychelles, West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, all the places, quite connecting now to East Africa, doing business in Rwanda, plans of Marriott's expansion in Africa and East Africa specifically. So what are your questions? What would you like us to hear? And then any other pertinent kind of like sharing your thoughts. How shall we see East Africa as a destination? From your standpoint, you came from all over the world. I'm sure you have been to other destinations. So please, I would like now to take 5 questions and specifically introduce yourself, and then quickly go to the question, and then we take, okay, I can see a few hands. I'll start by the person who's sitting behind, Ikechi from Nigeria, and then the lady behind, and then Wolfgang. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Ikechi Uko. I'm from Nigeria. I organize a travel market, and we are members of Team Africa. And my question is for the Honorable Minister from Seychelles, St. Ange, and I hope I got it right. For some of us who promote travel within Africa, it's a novel idea. It's something that in the last 3 years has gained traction. So we always want to put Africa first. We always want to get Africa to fight for themselves, fend for themselves, provide for themselves. There's enough within the continent to take care of everybody's needs, where we don't need other people to come and help us. So I don't know if you've sat down with your brother, the Honorable Minister from Zimbabwe, and talked things, what they will call housekeeping details, to make sure that Africa does not lose the UNWTO position. This is our turn, and whatever has to be done to make sure that it comes to Africa has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take the second question before, so we can take the microphone to the second person sitting in the room. So she's quickly.
For 22 years in the tourism industry globally, be more effective in bringing and encouraging tourists from the United States to East Africa.
Anyone in particular you want to address that question to? Anyone in particular?
Oh, someone from, I don't know, the ministry perhaps, or...
Okay.
Yeah, that's...
We don't have anybody at the ministry, but I will be more than happy if I can we just maybe... Okay, they would like to repeat the question. I have the Ministry of Tourism of Uganda, someone from Zimbabwe, and also someone representing the Kenyan Tourism Board, so they can take that question. So.
Okay, yeah, simply, as someone who has been representing or have been selling tourism globally for over 20 years, my question is, how can a person like myself in the industry better promote and East Africa from the United States, which is, you know, what we're here for. Some tips or solutions or...
Okay, so what is the best way to sell East Africa to the U.S. market?
US market,
yes,
correct.
From a standpoint of a business
right.
person.
I've been coming back and forth learning many destinations and almost 8 years, and I've just started selling
East
Africa only 2 years ago, so I need to know
how can we package
right,
East Africa?
So how can help me to help you?
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Probably I have two people who can answer that question. I have Uganda, and I'll also ask Kenya, because East Africa is actually together. We're talking about Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and Burundi. So yes. And then Wolfgang, your question?
My question goes to the private sector representatives here. What is the single most important point you would want your respective governments to do for tourism?
Okay, very clear. I think this will go to the private sector. So, the question from...
Yeah, I think the point made is a good point. I think the first, you must appreciate the elections of the UNWTO. It is firstly ministers that vote, and ministers will vote on a two-phase program. There are today 5 candidates coming forward. I am probably the little David fighting Goliath, because it's the smallest country. Out in this block, there's Brazil, Korea, Georgia, Zimbabwe, and Seychelles. The first round, we will eliminate 3 people, and then there'll be 2 in the second round. The 2 top candidates will go through, and my hope is that there's one from Africa that goes in the second round, and everybody can then rally. But it is important for Africa to realize, even if we have the 10 votes going to one African candidate in the first round, it is not enough to go through. We need to get votes from everywhere. It is a global election. It is not an election for Africa, by Africa. It is a global, on a global stage. People as far as Australasia, as far as Asia, as far as the Americas, all vote in this coming election. And which is why Walter Mzembe, as Minister of Zimbabwe, and myself are both coming out of Africa. But there's also 2 coming out of, probably 2 coming out of South America. There'll be Mexico and Brazil. Mexico will file her name in the next week. The deadline is early March. So yes, we will need to sit together and talk. We will need to see how to look at the second round. One of us, we will go probably through with most votes on the first one, and that one will have to have the support of the second one for the second round.
Okay, thank you very much. I think he has answered your question, but we can take another one later. So now I will probably pass the microphone to Minister of Tourism of Uganda. And how can Uganda be attractive as a destination to the U.S. market?
I think the question was general.
Yes, you can.
It was only to Uganda. It wasn't only to Uganda.
Yes.
For the East, it was for East Africa. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chiwanda Godfrey Suvi. I'm the Minister of State, Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. I'll use the opportunity to welcome you all to Uganda, and I think I'll have the opportunity to do that. Of course, I've also interacted with you on your field trips. I've found some of you in Bwindi, on gorilla tracking, but even some of you I've not interacted with. Please welcome to Uganda. The question was how best somebody can sell East Africa in the U.S. You know, the U.S. is a very big country. When you talk about Uganda, when you talk about Kenya, Rwanda, it may not make sense, a lot of sense, to somebody who is used to a big country like the United States of America. This would be to that person, this would be like states, small states like the states you have in the UK, in the US. So that's why, as the region, we came up with destination East Africa. East Africa can be best understood because in terms of population, because any marketeer would be very interested, or any person would be very interested to see, first of all, the economy of the region where he's going, the per capita income, of course, the attraction. I think to you as a buyer and somebody who wants to sell the package of East Africa, talk about the single tourism visa we have. That actually with one visa, you can visit the 3 countries. You can go to Rwanda, you can go to Uganda, you can go to Kenya. Talk about the stability that the region is enjoying now. The whole region is peaceful. Talk about the weather. We have the best weather in the world. I don't know whether you've seen, Uganda is like, you are like an air-conditioned country, you know. You need no AC. You need no AC. When you are moving, you see everything. Talk about the unique cultures. Because at times when you talk about elephants, you talk about lions, those can be found anywhere. But there are some cultures that you find in East Africa that you cannot find anywhere. Talk about some of you experienced the Bawa community when you went for trekking. You've experienced the Karamajong community when you went to Chidepo National Park. You've experienced the Rolex in Africa, in Uganda. I don't know whether you've eaten it. You've experienced unique things. There are a lot of things that you can talk about in the region of East Africa. Talk about the ugali that we have in Kenya, the food. Because tourism, because we say that our theme today is tourism is everybody's business. It's not about only national parks. You know, it's about the food. It's about the culture. It's about the hospitality that the people of East Africa has. It's about us. So, as you saw destination East Africa, talk about all this, and you know, when you package it well, it's the best destination that you can sell. Thank you so much.
Dr. Betty Heredia from Kenya Tourism Board, kindly just a few minutes. Yes. Oh.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Betty Heredia. I represent the Kenya Tourism Board as the CEO. First of all, I'd like to commend the lady. You're a very brave lady. 20 years, and you've started selling Africa in the past 2 years. First of all, US for us is our #1 source market. So that's a really important market for us. But the reason I say the lady is brave, and I don't mean any disrespect, but the US market is geographically challenged. So what that means is that when you're sitting in the US, like my counterpart here said in our community, is when you think about Africa or any country in Africa, it's really, really small. and you think, how will I get there? Will I be safe? And security is always a primary concern. So the first thing, and I was glad you said that, the main thing that we tell our U.S. Partners and stakeholders is to really understand that Africa has issues like any other country when it comes to security. It's not different from France. It's not different from Turkey. It's not different from any other country that has terrorism threats. The challenge is that because you don't know where, say, Entebbe is, or you don't know where Laikipia is, so when you hear that there's skirmishes in Laikipia, you think the whole country is burning. So what I'd urge you to do is, first of all, help people to understand what goes on in Africa. It's not one country where when you have an incident, it affects the entire experience. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, Africa is great. We have great climate, we have great people, and we have lots to do. The issue around heritage and culture has become a really important thing for Africa, because we are a number of diverse people and we're very different. And this is an experience that we're beginning to package as a tourism product. So as a business person and as our stakeholder, we'd urge you to do exactly what you've done. Come to an expo like this, experience exactly what it is that you're going to sell, and then sell it to your fellow citizens, because that's the easiest way to sell a continent or the easiest way to sell a destination. It's easy to tell your neighbor, I went there, it is okay. Me and Carmen sitting here and saying, please come, please come, please come. I went there, it is okay. Experience Uganda, you will have a fantastic time. I lived here for 4 years, it was a fantastic country. The food is great. Like he said it sort of casually, but the food is great. Experience it. It's a tourism experience. It's actually an experience that you need to have. Then the third thing I'd like to bring to your attention is the issue around access is really important. For somebody who wants to experience a holiday or a destination, access is important. Access and ease of moving around. So the uni visa is going to be important for us as a region. And also you find that when you're going to travel such a long way, you want to be able to optimize your visit. So the fact that you're able to experience 3 different countries and have a number of diverse experiences, from beach to safari to hiking to adventure to water sports to food to culture to heritage. And now we've begun to develop, this is the year of sustainable tourism. So now you can actually go and live with people and understand their culture and see how it is that you make a difference in their lives, in the communities that you live in. So those little things that you're able then to expand and communicate to your clients in the US is really important in terms of being able to sell a destination. Because nowhere else in Europe are they going to be able to have that experience. So you have a unique thing to sell. The East Africa community will give you that opportunity to be able to sell not just one country, but 3 countries. So you're brave, you're in the right direction, and we look to you to be able to sell Africa and open Africa to the world. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think you heard the message. East Africa, one destination, branding, and actually complementing each other. Now, the quick question to the private sector from Wolfgang. Oh, the microphone, sorry.
I think what we in the private sector would want governments to do is what we see is being done already in Rwanda, and it was mentioned before. Your impression of the country, of how structured and organized it is. It was mentioned how easy it is to set up business. So doing business easy, I think that is what we want governments to do. As a hotelier, I look at the feedback of our guests, and we predominantly look at the experience. I think tourism is an experience. We sell a story, and the experience has to match the story. So as a hotelier, I look at the arrival and departure experience. So how does someone come into the hotel? In a lot of the countries, in different continents I've worked at, you had to go through a security check. But that is part of the arrival experience. So if I expand that to what is not under my control, I would want to cover the government to make sure that the arrival and departure experience is perfect. So most tourists will come by airports. So the good thing in Rwanda is we're building new airport. We can do a lot of planning and adjust it to the current situation, because the experience of arrival and departure, how you enter and exit the airport, is your first and your last impression of the story, of your experience of traveling. I think that is extremely important. We have a lot of modern equipment to make this easier. And it was said before, there is maybe thoughts about terrorism here, but there is terrorism all around. So we need to get away from that. Terrorism is not a regional thing anymore. We need to get away from that, and if we can make travel easy in Europe, in the US, we can also make it easy in Africa. The good thing is that we can now have access to 3 countries with 1 visa. Obtaining the visa is, of course, is still a hurdle. You have to get that arranged, you have to get that done, you have to plan that. So it must be made as easy as possible, if we need it at all. So travel should be barrier-free. I think the partnership between government and private sector is very crucial in travel. If we get travel into the country, and it was mentioned before, we don't bring dollars into the hotel, we bring dollars into the country. Because my hotel guests are not, unfortunately, not spending their entire time between the 4 walls of the hotel. They go out, they go to local restaurants, they go to markets, they spend money. So we need to make sure that there's enough available on the markets to do, and we need to keep in mind that whenever someone spends $100 or francs or shillings, we know that they spend, I don't know, between 60 and 100 outside. Travel, taxi, shopping, like I mentioned. I think that is important that we keep that in mind and we support that. And then for hotels, it is crucial that we can fulfill the need of international travelers. And by fulfilling the need of international travelers, we need to have easy access to supplies. We need to have very fast responses on services. So I think the way we look at tourism, we need to look at the entire business, because we have technical installations, we sell food, we sell beverages, we sell rooms with sheets, towels, amenities. Everything should come to the hotel with no barriers. So life must be made as easy as possible. I think that is what we as hoteliers would expect from our government, where they can support us most.
One of the things I'm going to talk about is, because I have a marketing background, I definitely feel East Africa as a whole needs to learn to market to the consumer. So what we are doing at the moment is we are attending all the trade fairs. We're going to see the trade, talk to the agents, but we need to make the agent's job easier as well. And I definitely feel we as a destination do not have as much presence in these international countries. For example, if you're going to London, you see the London Red Bus going with the Incredible India. Do we have that for East Africa? And what's happening is a consumer will call an agent and want to travel to India rather than travel to East Africa, because there's not very much information that's out there. I definitely feel that there needs to be a focus of marketing to the consumer. The government of Rwanda has definitely, the country speaks for itself. I mean, we're incredibly safe, it's a clean country, but not very many people know that. And that's what we're still struggling with. We're still struggling with perceptions of what happened, I mean, years ago, and we've moved on, and it's a fantastic destination, but we definitely need to address that and make sure every in the world knows about it. Another thing that I feel that the government should do is, with the infrastructure, we have got the brands coming in. We've got the Marriott Hotel that has come in, we've got the Radisson Blu. We need to get more international brands coming in as well, because you're talking to a client in the States who is familiar with a brand. It's brand culture out there. So once they do understand a brand, and if the brand is in our country, they want to because the brand is in the country. So I definitely feel we need to get more international brands coming into our destination as a whole. I definitely feel we also, as the government, also needs to focus on diversifying products. I think Rwanda, we're struggling with that at the moment. We're selling the gorilla trekking. It's fantastic, but what happens is everybody that's traveling to Rwanda is coming to visit the gorillas. We've got Nyungwe National Park, we've got a Savannah Park, Kagera National Park. We really need to diversify our products. We've got fantastic culture as well, and I feel we're still lagging behind, and we need to put more effort into it as well.
Thank you very much, Bonita. Thank you. What I will do, there's one comment from the Deputy Minister of Zimbabwe. I would like just to...
Good morning, everybody. I recognize our hosts from Uganda and all protocols observed. I just want, as someone coming from SADC, the Southern African region of the continent, to congratulate the Eastern African Bloc for the progress that you have made in terms of opening up of your destinations, and to say that it's important for you to continue to market your destination as a collective. We have seen it working for us in Southern Africa through the RITOSA, the Regional Tourism Organization Southern Africa, Party 2. We market Southern Africa as a collective at JATA in Japan, the Japanese Japan Association of Travel Agencies Expo, which happens every year in September. So I also look forward to seeing your blog showcasing East Africa as a blog. Because of what we've done as a region, we have seen traffic increase in Asia in general, and particularly from Japan. And I'm proud to share with you that as a country, as a region, we receive plus or minus 65,000 tourists from Japan alone. And Zimbabwe, you not believe it, receives more than 35,000 of that. We managed to achieve that as a result of marketing our destinations as a collective. So I thought it was important for Southern Africa to congratulate your blog on progress that you are making, and we still also have a lot to learn from you in terms of the ease of doing business. From Rwanda, for example, it's amazing, magnificent. So I just wanted to make that comment and to say to the lady from America, welcome to Africa, represented by East Africa, and to say to you there's no better way for you to sell this region and the continent than what you've just done, coming to experience it and to know what exactly it offers. And it may also be important for the region to go and showcase in America. That's how America can get to know about us. But one challenge which we need to fight as a continent, not just a region, is the fact that Africa is viewed by America as one destination. So we need to demystify that, explain to them that Africa is made up of 54 independent sovereign states, not just one destination. If there's one small challenge in one country, it means that the whole continent or the whole region is now conflict manifested. Africa is the best destination in the world, and East Africa is magnificent. God bless you.
Thank you. I will now pass the microphone only 2 minutes to all of you. 2 minutes. I think there's one topic which was not touched. We talked about marketing. We talked about product diversification. We talked about other several issues. Connectivity was not discussed. How do we connect from one region? Pricing, airfares. Those are some of the challenges we have. So I'll give you 2 minutes, and then we close this panel because we have the launch of other activities and to the coffee and come back to this room. Thank you. Fifi.
Okay. Thank you again, Carmen. And next time this should be longer because I think we're going a bit hungry. There's so much we need to discuss about. What I want to add here, and we will continue as we meet later. We still have 2-3 days in Uganda. I want the government to consider exploring new markets in Africa. I think we've tried as much as possible to promote Africa. We will always continue to promote Africa outside the continent. But as you see, the lady came, 20 years she's been promoting tourism, but she doesn't know Africa. Yet we've been going to all those source markets. We've been going to ITB, WTM, and so many big events. I would like, and Ikechi is here, and the tourist boards heads are all here. I wish we can have our own, continue to promote our own exhibitions and spend more money being here, making our own exhibitions as big as the way we go outside there. We need to bring the world here in Africa. It's only when they come here that they experience, just to complement what my sister just said earlier. It's only if you come to Nigeria at Akwaba, or you come here at the Pearl of Africa, or to Kenya, and that you will know what our own African destinations have to offer. I think this is something that the private sector should support the government, so that we do not just travel to go outside, because I don't think they will know us when we just give business cards. It's when they come here and they experience what we have to offer. I think that we have airlines that are suffering. Africa has, every country wants to have an airline. So many of them started. I think we have over 600 African airlines registered. But do you know how many are in operation? Less than 10%. 70% of our airlines, of our industry, is still held by foreign carriers. They bring us the other peoples. How many of them do internal traffic? We need to work on that. We need to make sure that West Africa gets closer to East Africa. East Africa goes to West Africa. I want to see what we've been doing, all the exhibitions that we've been doing, going up to Japan and then coming back, and your neighbor does not know. Even ourselves, we don't know our own destination. I've seen East Africa countries promoting domestic travel, but the hotels are still expensive. I want to spend a weekend in a hotel when the hotel, Marriott, is a business hotel, is in the city. Over the weekend, the load factors are very low. I want to spend a weekend there because my maid will go home probably, but I can't afford it. So we need to do something. We need to sit as private sectors, key stakeholders in the private sector, work together to promote Africa differently. That was actually my answer to Wolfgang. And this is, Africa has over a billion people. We can try and sustain our own tourism if we try to think and turn things around. I want to see Uganda, Pearl of Africa, having their own Pearl of Africa outside Uganda. Come and do a farm trip in West Africa. Do a round. Let people know what is Uganda. What are the food? Bring the restaurants, bring the tour operators, bring the hotels. Let us know you more, and then let's fill all these flights over the weekends, and over the weekend, let's have business. People don't know that we have great conferences in East Africa. People go for the same conferences outside the continent. If you have two conferences with the same theme, you're likely to have more participants from Africa going outside the continent than doing it in the continent.
Thank you.
Why? Because visa is a problem, flight is expensive, hotels are expensive. So let's try and find a way. And I think next year we'll have this room full, and we'll have this panel even bigger and discussed longer.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
inviting
much.
us.
Thank you.
And it was an honor to be here with all of you.
Thank you.
Merci. I think the point being the young lady of the private sector of Rwanda is the point that I want to touch on. Visibility of Africa. I think it's a point that she tried to explain, but it is useless that we will bring 20 people now, we'll bring another 20. This is good, it's a good step forward. But to help you in the selling, Africa must be seen around the world. And I think we've lost 2 or 3 major events that used to put Africa on the map. One was the East African Safari, where we had a race around the 3 countries of East Africa. We had the Paris-Dakar that has disappeared, and we had the Cape to Rio race of yachts. I think we need to work as governments of Africa to see how we can have 1 or 2 major events that will get Africa on the map. Just get the word Africa outside so that people know that Africa exists, and then they can Google it today. It is so easy. There are more countries. Let us work maybe from this conference and see how we will bring a major event back into Africa.
Thank you. Last 2 minutes again to Bonita and our partner from Marriott.
I'd like to firstly start by commending the East Africa Tourism Platform. I think it's incredibly commendable how we've all come together, and it's the spirit of East Africa. And we are selling a destination that is so diverse and has incredible products, and together I definitely believe one who's traveling to Thailand can get the exact experience in our region as well. We've got to learn to be competitive. I think it is true, our destinations might be more expensive than destinations like India or Thailand. So that is one thing that we need to work on the price point. I know most of the people that are traveling here are more sort of high-end to the mid-range, but are we catering to the budget travelers? That is something that we do need to look at. How do we get more competitive for the markets that are out there? And I definitely feel with the East Africa Tourism Platform and the governments, we will be able to do that. Thank you.
As a new guy in town, I think that what I see and observe as my very first impression, and it is really very initial, is that there is potential, and I think we should be aware of the potential. My family is arriving for a visit tomorrow, and my first travel and experience as a tourist is scheduled for next week. So for me, there is a lot to discover before I can comment too much. But I look very much forward to this. Seeing Rwanda, discovering Rwanda, and discovering more of Africa myself. I think after that, I can probably talk more than 2 minutes to close off on a speech. At the moment, I cannot. I just want to take away maybe one perception. Kigali has been extremely expensive, with hotel rooms $300-400 easily paid. Supply has grown tremendously. The government has done. They've put down a fantastic convention center, attracting a lot of business, including ours. Prices are not astronomically high anymore. We wish it would stay like that. That would be great for us. But I think travel to Rwanda is becoming affordable as well. That's what I want to close off with.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. I am very conscious about the time. We'll come back in this room later, so we have a coffee and tea. So, I would like to, because we come back in the same room, we'll come back, and then you have the time to address the audience. So we have tea and coffee for you. So we'll come back in this room in probably in the next half an hour, 30 minutes. Come back here. We will launch our portal, which will be amazing for you who are interested in selling East Africa. The 3 countries joined together to promote the destination. And also we will have the first documentary and the TV adverts promoting East Africa. So we have so many things for you. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank once again our guest of honor, Alan Sean from Seychelles, Fifi Wakanao from Nigeria, but also from the region, from home. This is your home. And Bonita from Rwanda, and Marriott, who are also here. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and then see you shortly.